What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Table Spot, special recording of me and Cam doing the LFG reactions. Cam, how are you doing?
I mean, I'm doing all right, man. Again, it's very strange to be here on this particular night, but
Yeah.
like I said, I'm here to talk about some LFG. Very good show, very entertaining. Here to break that down, give our honest thoughts on the show, episodes 3 and 4. So I'm here for it, man.
Now, the last time that we did a recording, we did our first take and we were 15 minutes in and I realized that I didn't hit record. I hit record this time. I hit record this time. It happened. But number two, I feel you, man. This is weird. Number one, because for those of you watching, we are recording on a Friday evening. Okay. Me and Cam normally go live on Monday and Wednesday, and then I go live also on Sunday. Okay. But we are recording on a Friday evening. And the other thing that's weird is we're recording. We're so used to being live and not used to doing recording. So I'm used to having like this whole spiel of things to say while we're doing a show and everything like that. But I realistically, for all intents and purposes, don't have to do that. But I'm going to do it anyways. Okay. My name is Metal Mike. This is Cam, the man with the best beard in the business. My co-host here on the Table Spot. He is the lead host of The Boom every Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite on Rivet City Radio and Off the Top Media. And we are on every Monday on the Table Spot live for the Monday Night Raw watch along, plus the Table Spot after Monday Night Raw. But we also have a YouTube channel. It is the Table Spot RCR. Okay. Now we are on the Rivet City Radio YouTube channel as well under the Table Spot. Well, the show itself has its own YouTube channel, the Table Spot RCR, which is what you are watching this on right now. So please make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow us, and check out all the great videos that we're going to be doing here for our reactions to LFG and a lot of the other stuff that we have planned for the future. Okay, because me and Cam are cooking some stuff up for you guys and some really cool recording stuff for the future. So, Cam, we are here to talk about the show on A&E, Legends of Future Greats. It's the hit WWE show that is on every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we already reacted to episode 1 and 2. Those videos are up right now on the YouTube for everybody to want to go check out. We are here to react to episode 3 and 4. Okay, we're doing 2 episodes of recording for you guys. That way we can, talk about stuff in more length, because I feel like if we talked about it episode by episode, the recordings wouldn't be as long. You know what I mean? We would talk about episode 3. We'd be done in 15 minutes, 20 minutes. No, we're going to give you guys at least 45 minutes worth of content to watch. So we are here to react to episode 3 and 4. So, Cam, we left off talking about episode 2. We're getting into episode 3, and we learned that BJ Ray ends up suffering an injury and for Team Bully, and they have to find a replacement for him. Okay, so they set up a tag team match. They set up a tag team match for them to replace BJ Ray. My first question for you is are you kind of upset that BJ Ray has to be replaced now, that he may not be on the show moving forward because of this injury?
I mean, when I first got this news, I mean, it definitely was not great, to say the least. I really wanted to see what he could do in the ring. I mean, just because, like I said, like the guy's definitely a lot of talk. Just in general. So I was like, yeah, I want to see if he can really back it up in the ring and see what he has in the ring. I definitely think he has a lot of potential. I know a lot of people may not like him, but I like him. I like him just because, like I said, he has the attitude, he has the personality, he has the confidence, maybe even overconfidence that I think it takes to really make it in this business. So, he just really has to, like I said, the main thing he has to work on, and Bully Ray kind of alluded to this, is like really deciphering, like keeping that in the ring and in character, and then behind the scenes, kind of, toning that down. Otherwise, you're really going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. So yeah, it definitely sucked that he had to be replaced.
There's always that saying that really great talent or somebody that has that it factor, the way they mess it up is by getting in their own way. And that means, rubbing people the wrong way backstage or doing something in the ring while wrestling that they should not be doing, something that necessarily wasn't planned. Well, BJ Ray seems to be rubbing people the wrong way in a backstage form, and that is on TV, as we see with Bully Ray, and he works Bully Ray's nerves so much. But Bully Ray tries to go a different direction with this in this episode with BJ Ray. He says to BJ Ray, "Hey, we got to replace you. We can't go on with us having 3 people on the team. So we got to replace you. Therefore, we're going to have a tag team match, and whoever shows out the most is going to be part of Team Bully Ray." They're saying Bubba Ray. We're used to calling him Bully Ray, so we're going to call him Bully Ray. If you want to call him Bubba Ray, you can call him Bubba Ray. I'm calling him Bully. I'm used to calling him Bully. So, anyways, he goes to BJ Ray and he says, "Hey, do you want to help me find your replacement? Do you want to sit in with me and figure out who your replacement is going to be?" And BJ Ray is all for it. How do you feel? Do you think that was the right move by Bully Ray to let him sit in and watch that, or do you think that Bully Ray should have just took care of it on his own?
Yeah, no, he definitely should have just take care of it on his own. I think he knows what he's looking for in terms of what he wants in a replacement in BJ Ray. Having even bringing that up or giving him the option, I feel like because BJ Ray keeps talking about how he's out for his team and this and that, but every chance he gets, so he's throwing his team under the bus and he's trying to make himself look better. So he's really not out for his team. He's really just out for himself, essentially. Which, I mean, hey, like I said, it's a competition. At the end of the day, there can only be one winner, so I can understand that as well. So no, I feel like from the jump, he was really just trying to sabotage his replacement and not really be out for who he thought was the best replacement, but just somebody he thought was, I don't know, I guess mediocre enough to replace him. Just to throw his team under the bus.
See, now the direction I would have gone was don't ask BJ Ray if he wants to help find a replacement. Bully, he either should have done it on his own or he should have asked Xena, Drake, or Tatiana to sit in and help find the replacement, because the replacement's going to be teaming with them. And as we're going to get into episode 4, that's going to bring in a huge factor of them working with this replacement. So, but anyways, the tag match is Case Hatch and Cutler James taking on Josh Black and Drake Starks in what was a phenomenal tag team match. Really good tag team match, but the standout was Cutler James. I mean, Cutler James, he has the size, he has the speed, he has the tenacity. I mean, this guy has it. The only thing that, and we'll talk about this more when we get into episode 4, the only thing that he needs to bring out is his personality. And with this tag match, we don't have to see that. We just have to see the athleticism from him. Now, when you're in the ring, they do storytelling. And it seemed like he was doing a pretty good job doing that in this tag match. So, the Case Hatch and Cutler James end up picking up the win. And the decision for the replacement gets picked right away because they have to move forward with this competition. But before we announce who that winner is, what was your thought on this tag team match?
Oh, I thought it was a great tag team match. Honestly, just the performance from James Cutler or Cutler James, I thought was great. I think this is probably the best performance in a match I think we've seen in LFG thus far in any episode. So he definitely caught my eye. This is the guy that I was like, oh yeah, it's got to be Cutler, because I don't see who else it could possibly be. So yeah, he definitely stood out. And like I said, as you alluded to it before, that we'll get to in future episodes, his personality. Like who is Cutler James? What is his gimmick? What is his thing? What is his shtick? We don't know that yet. So that's what we're still trying to see from that. Because right now he just seems like he's all business when it comes to the ring, and I can appreciate that. But we definitely need to see, what else he brings to the table. But yeah, no, Cutler James definitely showed out in this match.
Now, Bully Ray does go to BJ Ray and ask him, what do you think? Who do you think stood out? Who do you think should ultimately be your replacement? Now, we do come to find out that Cutler James and BJ Ray have real heat. So this is a little bit of a twist that we find out that these guys have legit heat. Well, BJ Ray says that he thinks that Case Hatch should replace him. Bully Ray says, no, Cutler James. Therefore, Cutler James is your replacement. Immediately after finding out that they have true heat. Now, I don't know about you, Cam, but I think Bully did this for a reason. And the reason being is because there's always that saying, real drama makes money. So what do you think?
Well, I don't even think it's just solely that. Like I said, I still think he made the best decision. You know, again, we were just talking about it. I think Color James just stood out the most. That's a person that really caught his eye. So I don't think he was really going to fully listen to BJ Ray in that regard, and not give it to the person that again was just a standout. But yeah, I think a part of that is some real heat for sure. And like I said, we in 5-10 years or whatever it is, we could see both of them on the main roster, SmackDown, NXT, whatever, what not have you. And they can allude back to this whole feud that they've had, in training and in the PC days and things of that nature. And I think it'll be great. It'll tell a great story. Those long drawn out stories, those storied rivalries, they're always good when they reference things from 10, 15, 20 years ago even. So but yeah, no, for sure, real heat, real backstage heat always translates very well on television. I mean, pick any story that's had any real heat. I mean, Edge and Matt Hardy come to mind. They had real backstage heat, in real life heat, what not have you. And it was a fantastic feud. You can go back to that feud now and just be like, wow, this was amazing. Like, they created magic on the screen. So this could be another case of that.
Now, we do end up seeing a promo battle happen a little bit after the decision is made that that Cutler James is replacing BJ Ray, and the Undertaker got a little upset. Why? Because Mickie James brought in the Undertaker's wife, Michelle McCool, to help out Team Mickey. And we hear the Undertaker tell Michelle McCool, like, we talked about this. Don't really want you getting involved because this is a competition. And I don't want favorites. I don't want to get called out for having you in here and having favoritism and everything like that. So Mickie James calls it Michelle McCool anyways. Michelle McCool helping Team Mickey with the promos. Meanwhile, we do get a promo battle between Shiloh Hill and Chris Island, and these guys really got into their promo battle to the point where there was pushing, shoving to set up for their match later on in the episode. But what was your thoughts? Do you think Michelle McCool should have stayed out of it? Or do you think, hey, she was there, Mickie James took advantage of it? Do you think that for all of the intents and purposes of helping Mickie James that she should have been there?
Yeah, I definitely think she kind of overstepped her boundaries a little bit there. I think she just forgot that it's competition. You can't necessarily get involved and all that jazz. I mean, I get it if she was just going to her for like some advice or whatever. She could have given her a tip or two or whatever. But like actually getting in the ring, and being more hands on with everything is like, nah, it's not. It's not like this is off screen. It's not like this is just a regular day at the PC. Like this is completely different. This is a different ball game. So yeah, no, I definitely don't think that was necessary. And I'm kind of glad that Undertaker did say something, because otherwise, I mean, if he hadn't have known and found out later, he'd have been like, well, why didn't nobody tell me this? You know what I mean? So it would definitely been an even bigger issue had he not caught her in the act, so to speak.
And what was your thoughts on the Shiloh Hill and Chris Island promo battle? They got a little heated there.
Yeah, no, like
pushing and shoving from these two.
I definitely think that because even some of the judges had said it too, like that's I think that just shows a little bit of determination, a little bit of passion for this, and you love to see it, because we always talk about what their drive is or what their purpose is for doing this. Some of them have some odd purposes, like oh, I was just wanted to try this out, or I thought this would be easy, or whatnot have you. So to see something like that means that, or to me, I see that, and I'm seeing like, okay, this means a lot to them. They definitely want to win this. They definitely want to make this a career for them, and this is something that they love to do. And they don't want to be they don't want to be looked at as the weak link. So I definitely liked it. Getting a little heated is always great, because, like I said, it just brings that fiery passion to the overall show and overall competition.
Yeah, I definitely like the fact that these guys got not so much personal, but they got heated. It showed their passion. It showed that they want to be here and they want to do this and they want to win this competition, not only for their team, but they want to earn that contract for NXT. They want to be there and be on TV. And ultimately, we all know the ultimate prize is to get up on the main roster and headline a WrestleMania, headline a pay-per-view, win a world championship. These guys seem like they have that fire and determination in them. We do end up getting a match between these two, Shiloh Hill for Team Taker against Chris Island for Team Mickie James. And this match came to an abrupt end because, Chris Island went to do an enziguri on Shiloh Hill, and he connected. connected to the point where he knocked out Shiloh Hill. Match got stopped, and they ruled it a KO, and Shiloh Hill would end up picking up the win because of that. But Shiloh Hill then gets put into an ambulance and gets checked out. Well, yeah, he gets put into the ambulance. He goes to get wecked out, and we'll have an update on Shiloh Hill when we talk about episode 4. But the one thing that I really liked as far as reacting to this was that Mickey James taught Chris Island a lesson. Like, yeah, your opponent may be selling, but sometimes you never know. So make sure you are consistently checking with each other throughout the match. Are you okay? After a big move, if you think it's a move that can knock somebody out, make sure they're okay to continue. Because if they're not, then you got to let the referee know. And that was a nice lesson that, Chris Island learned there. But Shiloh Hill, on the other hand, for the moment, he's out. What was your thoughts on this? Were you really concerned about this? Like, what was your concern level for Shiloh Hill when this happened?
I mean, like I said, he got hit and he just dropped like a freaking sack of bricks. Like I've never seen that. He was out cold. So that was definitely scary, and I was very curious to see how they were going to react essentially to it. And I think they definitely reacted to it well. They got on that, made sure he was okay. So I definitely liked just the reaction factor of it all in this competition. Because like I said, this is not like again a regular program like Raw or SmackDown where someone would get hurt. So I was very curious to see how they would react to that. And again, it's unfortunate because this is my guy, Chris Island. I'm a huge fan of Chris Island right now. He has again a lot of areas to improve on or whatever. And it was just unfortunate that this happened to him or whatever. So early on or whatever. I was really just hoping that this wasn't going to be something that would put him like I guess back in his shell or whatever, and be kind of timid to try new things in the ring because of this or whatever. And like I said, we'll definitely get into his later matches and his later development in later episodes. But no, this was definitely very scary. Decent match before this. Honestly, I don't really have anything big or bad to say about this particular match. But yeah, that was a very definitely scary moment that happened to Shiloh Hill.
When I was watching this match, at first I thought Shiloh was selling. Because watching wrestling for as long as I have, sometimes you can tell a difference. Sometimes you can't tell the difference whether a wrestler is selling or not. And when the enziguri happens, I'm like, he connected. This is immediately, it was real. And I went from laying on my couch watching to literally in the sit-up position. Like I was just sitting there like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like this dude is knocked out. Let's hope he's okay, because Shiloh Hill is definitely a fan favorite through this show. A lot of people like this guy. I mean, and take away the comparisons of Bray Wyatt and all that stuff. He's a very big character on this show. So we already get one replacement. We're hoping that we don't have to have a second. But Shiloh Hill ends up getting knocked out and loses the match due to that. We did have other matches, though. Danny Sikelski from Team Mickey took on Panina Tuolapa from Team Booker T. Great women's match between these two. Great. And it seems like Danny Sikelski in these first 2 episodes have gotten the upper hand on Panina.
Yeah.
Well, from episode 1 of these first 3 episodes, I should say, has gotten the upper hand on Panina, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that Danny has the upper hand on her so far?
I think it's just like it's like the speed factor. I think she's definitely a lot quicker than Panina for sure. So I could definitely see that for sure. Again, you have another great good versus evil dynamic with them too. They play off each other really, really well. I feel like. And I like both of them, especially Panina. Like I said, she's a heel. She's a great heel through and through, and it's effortless. Like it just comes natural. I always like those heels, or even just those characters that it seems like they don't really have to try very hard, and it just works. Like it's just effortless for them, and that's what I see from Panina. But no, fantastic women's match right now. Like I said, the women are definitely killing it. I think they're even bigger standouts right now than a lot of the men. So great women's match.
Now, you had texted me and told me, who your favorite female wrestler is going to be with this group. And I'm not going to reveal that because we're going to talk about said person a little later on when we get into episode 4. But if I had to pick anybody else, it would probably be Danny Sikelski. I mean, yeah, she has that cheerleading background. She cheerleaded for the Tennessee Titans for a short period of time, but her athleticism, take away the cheerleading, her athleticism is amazing. And again, right now, it just seems like she has that one up on Panina, which is crazy to think about. But Panina, I mean, she could be one of those dominant heels, and she seems to be pinning into that very early on into the show. So you could tell that she's definitely not holding back when it comes to in-ring or on the microphone. She's doing great with the promo work, too. We also had Drake Moreau from Team Bubba defeat Anthony Luke from Team Booker, and we end up finding out that Anthony Luke and Danny Sikelski earned points for their respective teams. So ending this episode, Team Mickey has 2 points, Team Booker has 2 points, Team Bubba at 0, and Team Undertaker at 0. So if you final thoughts on episode 3, Cam, do you have any standouts from episode 3? Is there anything that you'd like to add on from episode 3 that I did not cover? Your thoughts?
I think you pretty much covered the basis essentially. Realistically, like I said, the standout moment was really was the promo battle with Shiloh. The whole shove and things like that nature. That I think was literally the thing that I think kind of set the tone for this particular episode. And like I said, Team Mickey James is the surprising coach. One of the, like I said, again, one of the nicest coaches, if not the nicest coach, a part of this show. Taking an early lead in the points. So that was definitely surprising as well.
When Mickey James went up to Chris Island and addressed the check on Shiloh situation back in when we were talking about episode 1 and episode 2, I said that you kind of see a change in her a little bit, and episode 3 is where you see that change. But I want to stop myself there because then we get into episode 4. Okay. And before we get into episode 4, I want to remind everybody to please make sure you're hitting the subscribe button here on the Table Spot RCR YouTube channel. Also head over to Rivet City Radio and Off the Top Media's YouTube channels and hit that subscribe button as well. You can check out past episodes of all the shows happening on the network. And if you want to head over to the Twitch channels, you can also hit the follow button there and check out all the live content that we have going on throughout the week, like the Table Spot, the Boom, 2 shows that me and Cam are both on, and so much more. So please make sure you're heading over to Rivet City Radio, Off the Top Media's Twitch, YouTube's. Hit that follow button, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you're checking out all the great content that is going on throughout the network throughout the week. So, Cam, we get into episode 3 of LFG, and it opens up with an update from about Shiloh Hill. We end up seeing, obviously, the enzuigiri that happened.
You said 3 or 4?
I'm sorry, episode 4. Thank you for catching. Thank you for catching that. We get into episode 4, and we get an update on Shiloh Hill immediately when this episode starts, which I really liked. I liked the fact that they addressed, the proverbial elephant in the room. Is Shiloh okay? Is he not okay? Let's find out right away. Well, we end up finding out that he's okay. Didn't suffer concussion, no neck injury, no head injury, no nothing. He was completely fine. Was that a breath of fresh air or what?
Absolutely, because you never want to see anybody get seriously taken out. So that's definitely a great thing. And as you said, like I said, they didn't waste any time. They just got right to it.
Yeah, they did. We also do end up getting the point update. Obviously, Mickey and Booker have 2 points each, which leaves Team Taker and Team Bully with 0. And then we get introduced to 2 special guests who are going to be on the episode. That is the former general manager, former president of WCW, and a former GM in WWE, Mr. Eric Bischoff, WWE Hall of Famer, Eric Bischoff. We also get introduced to another special guest, somebody who's going to be there to judge the matches that happen throughout the episode, and that is 2-time WWE Hall of Famer, Sean X-Pac Waltman. Now, we get told that Eric Bischoff is there to judge on presentation and entrances, all that stuff. X-Pac is there to judge on in-ring work, matches, everything like that. And sitting there thinking, okay, well, what's the focus here? It's faction focus. And it makes sense. Why? Because Eric Bischoff, part of the NWO, and X-Pac, part of the NWO, and DX, two of the biggest factions in pro wrestling all time. When they announced this, how excited were you to find out they were focusing on factions for this episode?
I was very curious to see how they were going to do this. But no, I was telling you even before we went on the recording, started the recording, I almost said went live. This is weird doing recording. But anyways, before we started the recording, I thought, this has been my favorite episode for sure, because, this then gives everybody the ability to then showcase a personality, because they all had to basically play their role as a part of said faction. So I was very curious to see how they were going to play this out.
I was very curious as well, because you know me, Cam, I'm a very big advocate, not only for women's wrestling, but tag team wrestling as well. You know this. You've worked with me long enough to know that I'm a very big advocate for tag team wrestling. Well, factions have tag teams in them. So I'm very big on factions. Huge fan of DX growing up. Huge fan of the NWO growing up. Huge fan of the Nation of Domination growing up. Those were my three favorite factions of all time. But also the Dudley Boys. The Dudley family in ECW. Got to have a favorite faction in all the companies that you watch, right? Well, the Dudleys, NWO, and D-Generation X / Nation of Domination. So we end up finding out that Team Booker is going to take on Team Bubba, and Team Undertaker is going to take on Team Mickey James. So they get into working their matches right away, and the first focus is Team Bubba against Team Booker. And we first see Team Bubba sitting around, and the first thing they're trying to figure out is what's going to be our name. And it seemed like nobody stepped up at first, but Xena. Xena was the one that just right out of the gates said that, this should be our name. She gave a name. She gave a example, like what's the word I'm looking for? She came up with a name, and she stepped up first and said, this is what we should call ourselves.
Idea, I guess.
Idea. There we go. She gave a name, Idea. And they necessarily didn't like it. They didn't. But hats off to Xena for coming up with, speaking up first. She did. And you know what? That's the one thing. And that's what we're going to get into real quick. You mentioned to me that Xena is your favorite female competitor in this competition.
Yeah.
So were you happy to see her step up like that?
Yeah, she definitely is becoming more vocal, I think. Like I said, she's trying. She is definitely trying to, turn that corner that I think Bubba desperately wants her to turn. So it's definitely interesting to see her kind of step up here and there. And, like I said, we'll get to that in a later episode. But you kind of see the transformation finally of Xena, as it comes, and she also gets something very special from Bubba as well in a recent episode that we will get to. But yeah, so it's definitely interesting to see her step up for sure.
I was really happy, number one, to see her step up and give a name example, be the first one to do it. Why? Because she's been very much, I don't want to say judged throughout these first couple episodes with, she does the whole like Barbie-esque type of character, the ditzy blonde that, like you mentioned, like a Maria Kanellis type deal. But she stepped up. At least she did that. And she's trying. When she goes in and does promo work, she may not sound the greatest, look the greatest, or anything like that. But hey, you got to give her credit. She's doing great. We also got introduced to another character, Cam, and that's not Tatiana Dumas. We got introduced to her dog, Roger. What'd you think of Roger?
He's too funny. I like him for sure, man.
I mean, Roger.
I'm a dog person, so yeah.
Oh, I am too. I have two. So but he's not a real dog. He's a inflatable dog, which I think added to the character much more.
Yeah,
it did. I don't think. See, and when she said that she's from Australia, you're thinking, is she going to have like a blow up kangaroo or something? No, she has a dog. which was really cool. So his name is Roger, but we do find out that they call themselves the modern day Dudley Boys. And we end up seeing them creating their promo and everything like that. We'll talk about their promo in just a moment when we get to the entrances. But we see them working into their promo and everything. And we also get Bubba telling Cutler James, like, dude, we need you to bring out your personality. We know you have it down there. Have fun. Let loose. That's the only way we're going to get your personality out of you. And I think they accomplished that. Do you think they did?
I think so, for sure. I think he played his role very well. Again, like I said, they all individually had, their own personalities, a part of the modern day Dudley family, which is very refreshing to see, for sure.
So then we get over to Team Booker, and we see them coming up with faction names and everything like that. And they came up with TNE, the Next Era, which pretty cool name right off the bat. I liked it. I did. When the Dudley Boy name came up, was I excited about it? Yes. Do I have a full-on official grade about it? I do. And I'll give that to you in a few moments. But I liked this one. I liked this whole TNE, the Next Era, and it had pretty much like, well, I'm not going to give the feeling away. I'll do that when we get to the vignettes and entrances. But during this process, and they get ready to talk about the match, the two teams start talking about the matches. Booker and Bubba had a little bit of differences when it came to them talking about the finish of the match. They wanted to have Xena pin Jasper. That's what the finish they wanted the finish to be. Now, Cam, when that moment came up, how did you feel about that? How did you feel about Xena getting the pin over Jasper?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure what they were really thinking there. It's very odd, I'd say. And I can see where, they were. I think they specifically wanted that to happen. To really, again, it's about really just pushing Xena. And I think putting her in such position. Other than that, I really can't think of why they would have came up with that decision, for sure.
So we end up getting the entrances for both teams because we get into the match right away. Okay. And we get told that Drake is the son of Dudley Dudley. And I will say this, when they showed the comparisons, like when they showed him and they showed the little video, like the 2-second video of Dudley Dudley, I was like, oh my God, these two look exactly alike. Identical. Yeah. I'm like, he can really play off being the son of Dudley Dudley. You go back in the day where, the Big Show came in as the Giant in WCW. And when he first came in, they were trying to have him play as Andre the Giant's son. And it was like, I guess he could have played it off, but he didn't really look too much like Andre, right. But we get these moments in wrestling to where they try and have wrestlers play off as people's sons and daughters. So, but this was mind-blowing that they looked alike. Xena was Sign Guy Dudley's daughter. Big Dick Dudley was little. Well, yeah. Who played as Little Dick? It was trying to see here. Yeah, Drake Moreau.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Drake Moreau played as Little Dick Dudley. So he was Big Dick Dudley's son. And then Tatiana was Dances with Dudley's daughter. And Bubba said, I don't know how Dances with Dudley got over to Australia, but hey, he got there, and now you're his kid. My overall thought of this vignette, though, was a 3 out of 5. I scored this out of 5, and I gave this a 3 out of 5. It got me on the nostalgia of the Dudley Boys. The look-alike between Dudley Dudley and Drake was astounding. Yes. Or no, Drake Moreau was Dudley Dudley. Little Dick was Cutler James. So Cutler James was Little Dick, Big Dick Dudley's son. So sorry, Drake looked like Dudley Dudley. the nostalgia, the lookalikes, the whole playoff of these are the kids. Like, this is cool. I like this. But the one thing that took away points was they were looking for originality. And there wasn't too much originality to this. This was like the new era of the Dudley Boys. And it's cool. I liked it. But at the same time, I wish they would have came up with something a little more original. Your thoughts on the Dudleys?
I thought this was great. I thought this like again, this showcased, you know, the most personality out of anybody, especially Cutler James. I thought he nailed it for sure. I mean, he was like this big like Frankenstein. He just was grunting the whole time. I thought it was great.
That I liked.
And it's especially from Xena. Like I said again, didn't have to tweak much, but just based off the attire and based off what she was doing, even Eric Bischoff had alluded to this. You know, she's rolling around in the ring, you know, whatever. But then, like I said, that bell rings and she's all business. So she did a fantastic job as well. So I like this. I get what you're saying about the creativity aspect of it, not really like something original that they just came up with. But I liked it just because of the simple fact that I think they nailed it. It could have been something disastrous and it may not have come off as well as it did, but I thought they nailed it, honestly.
I agree that they did nail it, but the 2 points that I took away from, again, originality, and the other point that was taken off was because I think they should have left it up to the competitors and just let the team captains like Bully, Booker, Mickey, and Taker oversee it. So they can give inputs, but not ultimately, you know, be there and be like, yeah, that's it. That's our pick. That's that. I wish they would have let the team. So did I take a point away for that? Yes, I did. So that's why the Dudleys got 3 out of 5. Other than that, they would have gotten a 4 out of 5, you know, but the next era comes out. They have this Matrix feel to it. Looks cool. Looks great. Everybody was amazing. I gave Team Booker TNE a 4 out of 5 when it came to the vignette. Your thoughts on Team Booker?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I like the name. I like the overall look. And I definitely like their entrance. So, I mean, even their entrance had the, you know, the Matrix, you know, graphics on the screen or whatever. I thought that was a very good look. They're coming out in all black. They're wearing shades and stuff like that. Like, definitely a heavy Matrix feel. And it was definitely interesting. Like I said, for sure, a lot of creativity in that, and just to think of, you know, the Matrix and applying that to this. We have seen, you know, many gimmicks, if you will, you know, taken from movies essentially and incorporated in people's gimmicks in wrestling. So and this is another case, and I thought it came off pretty well.
I agree with that. We got into the match, and I'll say this: I gave this match a 4 out of 5. Great match. I mean, every sequence seemed to be spot on. I did take a point away though, because there was a spot in the match to where, you know, we were supposed to get a certain tag in, and Bubba Ray was kind of setting this up. It was, you know, big guy comes in, he points and says he wants the other big guy, and it was supposed to be like the whole look tag. They didn't do that. They didn't follow that little bit of direction. Plus, the two big guys, when they were in the ring, I think they should have stood there a few moments, had a stare down, and then got into their sequence. Instead, they get into the ring, they look at each other, and they locked up. That was the only thing that I took away from the match that I didn't like. Other than that, this was a great match. Do you have any thoughts on the match?
Not too many thoughts on the match itself. I thought, you know, both of these groups did very well. Again, like I said, I was still just even a just slightly bigger fan of the Dudleys. I thought they just did a fantastic job with the whole thing. But you know, great match. Hopefully this is not the last time we see, you know, tag matches, you know, or multi-person tag matches. I thought this was some of the best stuff they've done, probably since, you know, the first couple of episodes for sure.
I kind of hope what they do moving forward is they have these teams stick together and have these team names. I hope they don't take this away. I hope this is like the characters that they, you know, be as moving forward, because they can do so much more with faction work moving forward in the show. You know, so, but there was one highlighted moment of this, and it wasn't a highlighted part in the match. It was outside the ring during the match. BJ Ray decided to show up, sit right next to Eric Bischoff, and start talking to him. And Bully Ray gets up right away and says, "Leave, get out." And they get into a little bit of a shoving match. BJ Ray, again, he just, like they said, he has all the talent. He has everything put together, but he just seems to be getting in his own way. It's almost like he's stepping over feet that he should not be stepping on. And Eric Bischoff seemed to want to talk to him. Like, Bischoff had a little bit of interest in talking to BJ Ray, but, Bully told him, like, look, he was replaced. He got injured. He realistically should not be here. So, do you have any thoughts on that little interaction that happened between Bully? This was the one that you were warning me about when we were talking about episode 1 and 2. This was that moment. So, do you have thoughts on this moment?
Like I said, once again, I think the biggest story of this show is, again, the conflict with, BJ Ray and Bully Ray. And, I don't even think really so much so sometimes BJ Ray doesn't even really know that he's kind of or maybe overstepping his boundaries. But at the same time, like, I gotta commend him in a way because he's trying to stay, in their sight, I guess. Like, even despite the injury, he doesn't want to be necessarily forgotten about.
Yeah.
So I can understand that, and I think he definitely has a passion for this, and he doesn't want this injury to set him back in any kind of way. In terms of Bully Ray, Bully Ray he just doesn't like anybody, I don't think, and especially somebody who's kind of really like opposing his authority as a coach on this particular show. So who knows? Maybe this could be a feud on our wrestling programming down the line. Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, once again, the two of them are always at it for whatever reason, one way or another. So yeah, it's interesting to see that unfold. And like I said, this is when you see this show being promoted or the trailer for this show, that's like the number one thing that's mainly being shown from episode 1 to now. So their interaction made a lot of this show.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on moving forward. I guess the big question is when BJ Ray is cleared, does he come back? Because they replaced him. You don't just go out and get a replacement and then, oh, I'm better, I'm back. No, your replacement's there. Which means they're part of that team now. I don't think that Cutler James should be replaced by BJ Ray for replacing BJ Ray's injury. I think BJ Ray should be off the team. I do. Or what they can do is maybe create a 5th team and BJ Ray can be on that 5th team. Find another coach, have 5 teams. Just the food for thought. Just the food for thought. But yeah, I mean, this was a pretty intense moment. I thought they were going to get into it more. It was just a shoving match, and that was it. Bully just said, get out of here, go, shove, and Bully sat right down. He didn't want anything to do with it anymore. So, but he did mention to Eric that he's one of those kids that he's getting in his own way. He's going to hurt himself at the end of the day. So, moving forward with the teams, we had Team Mickey James against Team Undertaker. And Team Mickey, they want to call themselves Pop, Pinnacle of Performance. Seemed like a pretty cool name. Not too bad. It makes sense for what they're doing right now as far as competition and everything like that. Team Undertaker, they come up with the name SOS, Slayers of Souls. Now, as far as the name for the Undertaker, I think they could have came up with a little bit of a better name, especially with the Undertaker being part of factions and a big tag team throughout his career. The Brothers of Destruction. He was, I'm trying to think of the faction that he was part of, the Ministry of Darkness. So Slayers of Soul, it's a cool name, but I feel like they could have maybe came up with something a little better. But your thoughts on the team names? Team Mickey, Pop, and Slayers of Soul for Team Undertaker.
Well, Pinnacle of Performance is definitely the better name, I think, and just like I said, just the acronym, is also, like I said, a term used, to with the reaction of the crowd based off of your entrance theme music. So it just makes sense. It really connects, I think. Slayers of Souls. I don't know that if it could have went with something better. When I initially heard that, I thought they could have simplified that more to just Soul Slayers. I feel like
That would
I
have
don't
been cool.
know,
I would have liked that
but
more.
Slayers of Souls, I don't know, I didn't really connect with me. The overall presentation, I felt like could have been better too. Like when they were doing the whole vignettes or whatever, theirs felt like they started somewhere and then they kind of got lost as the the longer it went on.
Yeah.
Because the finished product felt unfinished. It just
Yeah.
felt like there was going to be something else more there, and then it just ended. So I don't know. Shiloh Hill definitely. If nobody else really stood out to me within this faction, Shiloh Hill definitely has the look. I mean, because he's already got like the missing tooth thing. So, but that's already something that catches your eye, right? That
Yeah.
catches your attention. So he can definitely play off like a darker gimmick as a part of this faction. So he's definitely something that really stood out. But somebody like a Tyra May Steele, being an Olympic gold medalist, does not really connect with like this darker graveyard kind of. It's not really connecting. That's like two completely separate things that I don't think is ever really mixed. That's like water and oil. That just doesn't really mix very well. But other than that, though, the match itself, if I may,
Yeah.
I think was very good. Pinnacle Performance, I think, did a little bit better. Everything they did is, speaking of video packages, vignettes, things like that. Theirs really got you excited for like, okay, this is the top class of athletes, and they're supposed to be athletic, and the white and the gold really stood out. So they really looked like a complete unit for sure in this match. So yeah, I like them a bit more. I think they performed a little bit better. And like I said, name was definitely better as well. So
What helped the Pinnacle Performance name was the fact of somebody like a Danny Sikelski being involved, because it was, Pinnacle Performance. She's a performer. She was a cheerleader. She was a gymnast. She did all. Somebody like that fit. And that's what helped that name even more. And with the vignette and with the entrance, the presentation and everything. When it came to the Slayers of Soul, my pick apart was the fact that, again, like you said, Shiloh Hill, he fits. But another person that fit too was Bailey Humphrey. I mean, she's a real life, she's does the mortician thing. It's like, oh my gosh, the Undertaker with Paul Bear.
sure.
Paul Bear was the actual mortician. Well, she's doing the same thing. So that fits. The other thing that bothered me with this though was too much smiling from everybody. The
Yeah.
smiling took it away.
Yeah.
If they would have at the end of the vignette, when we thought we were going to get more, because they, Bischoff said it right. They left you wondering what this group is about. They're mysterious. Like, they're not saying anything. They're just moving. And it's right. You kind of question, like, but the smiling really just caught me. I was like, there's way too much smiling happening for this group that's supposed to be dark and ominous, and they're not supposed to be happy and smiling and joyful, which they were showing. Shiloh Hill's smile at the end fit, but throughout the vignette, it did not. As far as the match, I thought the match was slightly sloppy on the women's side of things, and I hate saying that, but it was slightly sloppy. The men were fine. Their transitions, their movement, everything they were doing, their work was great. Really, really good. But the women, it was a little sloppy, a little, I guess I could say it was a little like when they went into sequences for things, it's almost like they stood there and thought about it before doing it. They didn't just do it. So there was a little bit of sloppiness on the women's side, but all in all, not a bad match. The Pinnacle Performance ends up winning the match. But then we get to the end of the show where we get the points awarded, and Team Booker, yet again, his team loses, but they yet end up getting a point because of the vignette and how they looked and everything. So Team Booker now has 3 points. Mickey James, she doesn't get any points. She's still stuck at 2. Then we get the Team Taker and Team Bully. Again, the Dudley boys looked great, everything like that. They don't end up getting a point, but the Slayers of Souls do. So now we have Team Booker at 3, Team Mickey at 2, Team Undertaker at 1, and Team Bully at 0. And that is the updated for the end of episode 4. So is there anything that I missed, Cam, that you'd like to add on with episode 4 before we close things out here?
No, if I may just comment on just the whole points and how that was divvied out at the end of this episode. Personally, I feel like Team Bubba got screwed because I think they
Yes.
showed the most personality and the most just overall character, just being interesting as characters the most. I think a close second, like I said, would have been Pinnacle performance. Yeah, those two groups to me stood out the most, and I think Team Bubba should have been the team to get the point. But unfortunately, it worked out the way it did. So,
but that is it for episode 4. Our next episode will be on episode 5 and episode 6. Want to thank everybody for checking out the episode, our reaction here of episode 3 and 4. Before we get out of here, Cam, your social medias are on the bottom. What do you want to let the people know?
like I said, first of all, thank you for checking out this recording. We'll be back next week sometime to record episode 5 and 6. The next time you will see us live will be on Monday night, back on our regular scheduled time at 8 p.m. with the watch along. And of course, immediately after that will be the table spot discussing everything on Monday Night Raw. We are now a mere 15 days or so out from WrestleMania 41. So it's very exciting to see what's going to happen at WrestleMania 41. So we will be staying tuned for that, close eye on that as well. They're still making more matches for that as well. So yeah, then of course after that will be on Wednesday Night Dynamite, talking about some AEW Dynamite. This will be now post AEW Dynasty, so we'll be talking about that, doing a review for that as well, and then talking everything on that post show for AEW Dynamite. So yeah, I appreciate everybody coming out and checking out this recording, and check us out when the next time we are live.
As Cam said, we are recording this on April 4th of 2025, so about 15 days from WrestleMania. Well, we are 15 days as of today from night number 1 of WrestleMania, so pretty excited. The road to WrestleMania is coming towards an end in Las Vegas. So make sure you're checking out Cam's social medias. Go and follow him, subscribe to his channels, and check out everything he is doing. My socials are on the bottom. Metal Mike 714 all across on Instagram, X, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitch, and Xbox. Like Cam said, every Monday night for the watch along at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by the table spot, and then every Wednesday for AEW for the boom after AEW Dynamite on Rivet City Radio, Switch, and Off the Top Media's YouTube channel. And I am also on the Huddle Hub podcast every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with the Candyman Johnny H. We're in the preseason, we're in the off season right now, so we got free agency, we got the draft coming up. We're going to be doing a mock draft and everything like that. We're doing predictions right now, so please head over to the Huddle Hub podcast over on Twitch and the Huddle Hub podcast over on YouTube to check out replays of the show. Appreciate everybody checking out the recording here of LFG. As I always say, be good to each other, be kind to each other, take care of each other, be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you think. Until next time, deuces, everybody.